Realize it's been about a month since we last did a update on our chicken system. The last time we were documenting this, we were dealing with the tail end of our polar vortex, the Arctic blast. Talked about renovating some of the elements in the coop, which I'll talk about. And now the moment that we're in, we're kind of at a roadblock in almost a literal way. I mean, you can see in this cattle panel, 4-panel winter run for our chickens that the amount of compost in here is astronomical. It's probably about 4 feet high in the middle there. The peak of that roof is 6.5 feet. And so you can see I can't even walk in there anymore. I'm going to talk about this roadblock that happened, why it got there, and how some of the systems are performing and how we're going to be moving forward. So stick around. I thought I'd start in the coop here. Hopefully these ladies will let me speak a little. So the elevated perch system overall works quite nicely. Certainly had no issues with it breaking or any physical issues. The one key issue is that for the 65 hens we have, this space was not fully enough, and so some of them sleep on this little bar set that lets them hop into the new nesting boxes. Some sleep on top, and I clean that off in the mornings. Not a big deal, but if I were to design it again, I certainly would have made this bigger. But they seem to be comfortable. It's really focusing all of their manure each night down on this deep litter. And certainly one of the things that has to happen today or in the next few days is every day I've been adding hay onto the fresh manure from the evening and then turning it slightly. And for the first 3 weeks or so, that was beautiful and working. It just, there's a certain moment where it goes over the edge and the amount of nitrogen and fertility in the manure gets, shush up a little, I'm trying to talk, gets to be too much, and it outstrips the bulking material of the hay. And so all of this has to come out, and we're going to start from scratch. We've got enough hay bales in here, fresh hay, and so I'm going to clean that out and mix this into the compost. That's definitely a nice big project. These nesting boxes are working well, but just as I expected. Excuse me. They really only use 3 of them. But we're getting 16 eggs a day or so. Oh my gosh. Alright, I'll go somewhere else. That's what I would definitively call unnecessary drama. But we're outside again. We've got the grains that we've been soaking for them all through this cold spell. In the winter here, it's been really nice to soak 2 5-gallon buckets of mixed grain. In this case, we had some peas that we got from somebody, and then the standard blow-off grain that we barter from a local mill. And we soak that, and so they're getting really nice nutrition from there. And we are still continuing on with bringing in food scraps and compost as we have for the entire time. Now, what I want to address here is kind of this issue that I'm having, which is that when we got into that polar vortex, my concern was that this compost was absolutely going to freeze rock solid. And once it freezes, then the chickens really don't have access to the compost. It no longer works. And then we'd have to entirely be feeding them grain rather than an active compost system. So I started bulking up all the material heavily in this far corner in the center. It felt like the most buffered space, and just kept on with that, and I was able to get it hot enough to just coast right through that cold time. So that's exciting. But then what happened is it boxed me out from being able to access this space. Real takeaway for me, if I were to design from scratch, if I had an open space to work with, cattle panel is lovely for small high tunnels, but I would have absolutely preferred a larger space, a taller space to do composting chicken run. But I'm not complaining. I'm happy with what we have. I might have to re-envision this in the future. I've already taken 2 truckloads worth of compost out of here from the far end. That's the downward side, so to speak, the more finished side. And I have to really get all this material out now. It's getting anaerobic. It's turning a little bit sour or pickling, which some people say is a good thing. It helps release more nutrients. I don't think it's wonderful. I don't enjoy digging into it, and I don't think it's wonderful for our chickens. So I need to move this material out and kind of start from scratch in here. So I moved this material out of the high tunnel yesterday, and this is very hot, active compost. I bulked it out with more leaves to add some more aeration and a little bit more carbon to try to help get it to breathe and be a little bit more balanced compost. That's about a truckload worth that needs to come out sooner than later. And you can get a sense of this now. Here are the chickens. If I come down to ground level, the amount of compost that's in here right now is insane. It goes up about 4 feet. It's about 7 feet wide and probably about 12 feet deep. So however many cubic feet of that is, that's in the last 2 months in the middle of a very cold winter. So that's an impressive volume of material, but there's a stagnation to it by being this dense. Instead of having open windrows where they can kick it apart more easily, it's this one unified, incredibly hot, crazy mass. Wonderful for hot compost, but not great for interaction. So I think what we're going to be working on today, tomorrow, over the next few days before we get back into another cold snap is to move all this material out, mix it with the bedding from the coop, and set it out into a windrow on the ground here. The challenge with all this is right now the ground is solid frozen, and so we've got really cold air, ice cold ground. And so there's a reluctance in my mind to set up these windrows of compost because I feel like it's just going to suck the energy right out of it. But if we build it big enough, we put plastic on top. So this one, I can put this tarp over it, and that'll help retain some heat. And then the other challenge is that if it was finished compost, I have a hard time knowing where to send it. All the ground is frozen and covered in snow. So we're in this really kind of boxed out moment from being able to move forward in a very easy to design way. If folks have some suggestions of how to manage this, I'm interested. It's another one of those, ironic problems of too much compost. But basically I've got this times maybe 3 that needs to come out of here. You can kind of see the outline in this space where it's steaming against the plastic. Once that's out, we can then start again with fresh bulking material in the space combined with food scraps and kind of, like I said, hit the reset button and give them some fresh material to work with. But that's where we are right now, is too much high heat, anaerobic, nitrogen-rich elements in the middle of a cold winter. A fun situation to navigate, but I think we'll be able to figure it out. So I'm going to quit blabbing about it all and actually get to it. We'll leave this front side alone for today and let the chickens enjoy it. On a cold day, they absolutely love this pile. They're going to miss it, but I'm sure it'll get hot again. You can see them resting there, just enjoying the radiant heat coming off of there. But it's so tight and so thick that they just really can't work it, and I can't really get in there to work it very easily, so we've got to get onto another situation.